Good morning.
Morning.
We're starting with a question today. So feel free to sound out, drop your answer in the chat if you have an opinion on this. At what point in a relationship, whether it's marriage or maybe just like long term, at what point can you officially say that you've made it? I'm going to give you like a few seconds to answer before I give you my answer. And then Tyler's going to give you his answer.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Okay.
Have you thought about it?
Yeah.
Okay. My honest answer? Never. I think that you could never say that you've made it as a couple or in a relationship. I think that that's actually, in my humble opinion, that's dangerous territory. What about you?
I would agree. I think personal growth, everybody can still grow, but also when you get cocky and we've made it, I don't know. I don't think anybody should settle. Everybody should keep striving for better.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think like your present version could be like, hey, we're pretty happy.
Yeah, and I think it's a great thing to look back to see how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the goal line should still be moved. Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't think there's like it's over. We're done.
I am not the same person that I was when we got married.
No, and by far I am not either.
And you sent me these things, so we want to talk about some advice and some things that we've had. But this morning you sent me this text with some statistics, and we've shared a little bit of this before. But we were married really young, and one of the problems I think that arises when you get married young is that you are changing
you're discovering yourself
so much. In fact, nobody embarrasses me more than me from 20 years ago.
Yeah, and that's thanks to memories on Facebook. Social media.
Yeah, it's like bad. Thank you for being friends with me back then if you were.
Yeah. Me too.
So you shared this that let's see. Around 30, let's go to younger couples who are under 40 are more likely to seek therapy than older couples. And the reasons, the most common ones, according to what you found, was that it's the number one thing is communication problems.
Yeah, and I think we fell right into that.
Absolutely. So.
But what was the number of people who actually seek therapy in a relationship overall? I think it was pretty low.
It is pretty low. 15% of couples actually attend therapy. Yeah. And I think that that's actually one of the things that has made a world of difference for us. We landed in therapy, couples therapy, within 3 years of being married.
Yeah. As a couple, yeah.
As a couple. Yeah, like we've also like I shared last time, I was going to counseling on my own to heal from some trauma. But the thing about trauma is that and not just trauma, like we talked about last time, it's when you become a parent, you carry all of these ideas about what parenting is or what it should be or how your parents did something well or they did something wrong. And you also carry any kind of trauma with you into the parenting, right? And that's why it's really important to choose what kind of parents you want to be. But you also need to choose what kind of spouse you want to be and how you're planning to communicate, because all of that also plays into the kind of partner you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like however you witnessed your dad and your mom.
Yeah, not even how it's how they interacted with each other and how they spoke to each other, but it's also like, I think we, as kids in a household, you pick up other things too, like how did your parents manage money, or how did your parents navigate like conflict with each other, or
Mm-hmm.
not only like discipline with kids. I think you may not be observant of it, like
Yeah, I don't
taking
know that you're
notes, but
conscious of
you're
it.
part of it. And um, when you get into that role as an adult, and then I think you probably start to reflect more on it, and then figure out like where is this coming from,
Mm-hmm.
kind of piece, which is what counseling
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
points those
so
areas.
our very first counseling that we went to, and part of the reason that I love couples therapy, whenever you are struggling, like legit, it's amazing. But this counselor that we had was fantastic, and he had a whiteboard in his office, and he drew pictures for us, which I loved, little like diagrams, and we're teachers. We like our diagrams. Also, he compared us to living houses, which is very much like one of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis. So automatically, I love this guy. Anyway, he said, specifically with the idea of coming into a marriage or into a partnership when you've gone through some kind of trauma growing up, or when you don't have this like ideal, quote unquote, as if anybody has the ideal upbringing. He said, most people, if you're a living house, most people will put up some security to their house, right? And it's, people get to know them, stuff like that. Maybe they see the house, right? People can see you, but like most of the time, people have some kind of securities for people who are like those that they're gonna let in, right? That
You
like
have a door.
you have a door, you have a lock on that door, maybe. You might have put up like a cute little white picket fence. And so there's little things that people have to go through in order to really earn your trust to be fully let into your house. If you've experienced any kind of trauma, he explained, you might have put a deadbolt on your door. Your fence might be taller. You might have a lock on your fence. In fact, depending on the level of trauma, he explained, that you've gone through, you've also planted landmines. And somebody stepping on that, like maybe they made it past the gate, but now they've stepped on a landmine, and your brain says they are unsafe. Do not let them close to the door. Right? And so all these landmines start going off. The good news, he said, is that you can figure out where those landmines are, or if you feel like your partner's getting close to those landmines, you can do something about it. You can let them know, hey, this is a landmine. And so that was actually, for me, like really pivotal in like learning how to communicate with you, because instead of just like you said something hurtful or that I perceived as hurtful and I shut down, because that's my coping mechanism, is to just shut down and go, no, I'm gonna like be by myself. And so I would just shut down and get scared and kind of isolate. And so instead of that, it would be, hey, I want you to know you're getting really close to a landmine that I have planted. And then you would adjust.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you as you got to know my map of landmines?
Well, I mean, it was hard. I think we all have our own version of that, like our own landmines, and it's navigating yours. I mean, it takes a lot of like thought, because you don't, you want to have a communication process. You want to solve a problem. You want to speak, but also like get your point through. Or it doesn't. I guess not about making a point, but it's about solving whatever, parenting, money, whatever it is. You want to be heard, but also come to a solution. So it's hard because it takes more thought.
Yeah.
To address things. So in a way, it makes me made me take a step back and be more, hopefully, analytical with the presentation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like you said, I think you said that really well, that it does go both ways. And there are things that like I was doing that were also, hurtful to you. And I didn't know For example, I'm a withdrawer, and to you, because like love language, right? That's a real thing too. And your love language is like physical touch and to push in. And so my withdrawal is like a huge rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn how to navigate that as well. And I think that when you're committed to each other, that's kind of what you do is like you learn each other's maps.
Yeah.
And you try really hard to like abide by them.
Yeah.
And I think that the work though is too to overcome your own landmines.
Yeah.
And like to unbury them and uncover them and work on yourself is some of the best work that you can do in your marriage, to uncover those landmines, because it's also not fair to put that on your partner all the time either, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where that, like, our original question came into play is like, is there a point in time where you're like, we've made it, it's perfect, all is good? And I'm like, no, because seasons change. Like right now we're
We're
our
on the
kids
cusp
are
of
old.
empty nest.
Yeah. So like that'll be a totally different chapter in our lives.
I'm kind of excited.
Yeah.
I don't tell our kids. I'm I love having them around, but like you and I have, so if you know our story, like we've never been us.
Yeah.
Like it's like for like 3 whole months we got to be us. And we weren't really, because we were just getting to know each other.
Yeah, we didn't have the years dating and then
I get to
proposal.
date this guy.
So yeah, it's gonna be fun. So
pretty excited.
So yeah, I think we keep having to learn about each other because we all individually grow, and seasons change, life changes.
So that's been game changing for us. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that we got early on was to seek help and to make sure that you have help.
Yeah, and as a guy, I think for me in particular, I think I was always supportive of it when it was you, and for like to release that like sense of control, which has always been something that I struggle with kids or whatever, is like classroom, it doesn't matter, like that sense of control and having somebody else help. I think you just can't white knuckle it through. That was a big part. I don't know if that's possibly true for men in general or not, but for me it was.
I think for a lot of people, but the stubbornness definitely helped. I remember there were times, so there's so many like little things that people have said too along the way that I've just carried with me. Before we got married, one of the things that somebody had said was, just so you know, at one point, one or both of you is going to want out. And it's going to get really uncomfortable if you hit that at the same time. Sometimes you have to fight for your partner, and sometimes your partner has to fight for you. But most of the time, there's going to be some kind of a determination and a decision to stay and to fight. And I kind of liked that because it normalized it. There were, I think, times that you probably were like, I don't know if we're going to make it. I know that there were times that I thought that, where like just the fighting and fighting and fighting. And usually then I would think about what that person had said, and I would, or you would say, hey, maybe we need somebody to help. Maybe we need to fight harder for each other rather than actually. Aunt Carol, I'm going to name drop you. Early on, one of the pieces of advice that my Aunt Carol gave me was, when you fight, you need to fight for each other instead of against each other. And that's actually really hard to do in the moment. But I think it's a bigger picture thing too, because like fighting for each other is also admitting that you need help. What advice has stuck with you?
Like we've talked about this before. I guess I have more. I don't know. Maybe I'm just pessimistic. But like the things that stick out to me are the more of the naysay the negative pieces, which to me is like they're negative, but it's also like that stubborn piece is like I'm gonna prove people wrong.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like bad advice or people who poo-pooed.
You got bad advice?
Well, you get tons of. I mean, I think there's every.
What's
I think advice comes as a grain of salt, but I think
what would you say is something that's often said to people that is bad marriage advice?
bad particular marriage.
Yeah. Now I'm interested to know.
No, there's the old happy wife, happy life.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's sounds great. And it sounds.
For what it's worth, I also disagree.
It sounds pretty easy. You know, just
give her
let everything
away.
just let everything roll off your back.
I actually don't feel like that makes a happy marriage either. We could talk about that a whole episode.
Yeah, so I think that's a big one that I've heard time and time again, like over and over and over again. Like, but yeah, so that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I know your aunt. I don't know if you want to say that because last time I brought it up, you said no, keep it. Your other aunt.
Well, because I feel like there
advice.
is a bigger story to it. I could share the piece of advice, but
which was a good one.
I can also share the story later. So, and it actually fits here because it was about growth, and so we did get married really young, and I didn't decide to go to college until I was like 26. And I'm in college and I'm making these like tremendous growths, especially when it comes to faith. I'm like really finding out who God is, and I'm like really enjoying this and signing up for everything I can. And I feel like, and I'm going through counseling on my own, and I am just like growing, right? Like I'm just becoming a totally different person. And I remember getting kind of frustrated with you because I was like, we need to be doing more with going to church. We need to be doing more with volunteering, or we need to be, like, or whatever it was that I had deemed important in the moment. I was like frustrated because you also didn't deem all the same things important, right? Yeah. And that doesn't make you right or me right or wrong or whatever. It was just like that was in our own growth, right? And so, or in our own like minds, what was important at the moment. And so I went to my Aunt Trisha. I'll name drop you too. Aunt Trisha. And I was talking to her and I said, I don't know what to do because I think I'm outgrowing this guy. Like, I think I married him and we have these kids and I love our kids, but like, I don't know what to do because there's all these things that I feel like I'm making progress in that he's not. And I was like super frustrated. And she gave me some solid advice that I think I needed in the moment and everybody probably needs. She said, I want you to go home and I want you to pray. But I don't want you to just pray for him to grow. She said, I want you to pray that God gives you the patience in this moment that you need. How did she say it? I want you to pray that God gives you the same exact amount of patience that he's going to need one day when he outgrows you. Oh.
Yeah.
Like that hit. Thank you, Aunt Trisha. Because it is a balance and there are times that like it's that cliche to say it's a dance, right? 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And you've outgrown me in a lot of ways. And so I'm really grateful that you weren't just like, well, I don't know what to do. Like that was a humbling moment for me, but also just very eye-opening in that like at any given point, you can look at a marriage and it's 2 people who are working together, not one person who's like, I got this. Like that was pretty cocky of me to be like, look at me. And I don't know. Again, nobody is more embarrassing to me than me from 20 years ago. And there's still a lot of room to grow. Yeah. So, do you want to share some of the other statistics before we go to just encourage some people? Before we go. So, a couple more of these. Let's see, because I wanted to look at the effectiveness.
Oh yeah. So like 70 to 80% of couples who would actually go to and attend regularly some sort of counseling uh, have in post survey has said that it was beneficial. So that's a pretty high number. 80% said it impacted for a positive. So
50% show measurable improvements in their relationship satisfaction.
Yeah, so not all the statistics have to be negative. Like there's
couples who attend counseling earlier in their relationship tend to have a better outcome than those who wait until things are severe.
Yeah, because I think you know the steps, you know the process.
You're not so heated that things get ugly every time you go. We've actually been there before.
You don't, yeah, and you don't start at the bottom because you already have the foundation of, like I said, the process and each other and what it's like. So yeah, I think those are all good things. So it's never too late.
No.
It will benefit for the.
It's also never too early.
No.
So advice, the good advice that we have for you for this round: be patient with each other.
Yeah. Push into the relationship, and try not to pull out or isolate.
Seek help and accept help from people, especially the people that I'm mentioning are people who I knew I could trust. I highly recommend finding a couple in your life that is a solid couple. Like I remember you and I going to my Aunt Carol and Uncle Rob, and we were like, hey, if we could be like you guys in 20 years, we'd be so happy. And would you help us and counsel us?
Yeah, I think that's important. Like people,
not even like counseling. I guess it's help us and give us advice when
like mentorship.
Yeah,
and surround yourself with people who are positive with your relationship. Yes. Like nothing will poison the water more than people who if you're upset.
Don't hang out with people that just want to trash talk your spouse.
Yeah. If they're gonna be like, well, then it's time to get out, or they're giving you advice to or pushing you in one way. Yes, I think, and I don't think you should ever feel stuck with either, but it's also positivity.
Yeah.
To push in.
Yeah, it's a balance because sometimes it is a toxic relationship, but the people who love you are gonna be able to know, they'll help you through that difference, and you'll know, you'll know if it's just and if you don't know, go get help. See a professional, and they can help you navigate that too. But what I want to know now, so I asked at the beginning about making it. What is the best marriage or relationship advice that you have gotten? What's helped you navigate this far? Maybe you're early on. Maybe you're later on.
Yeah.
I want to know because we're still growing. So give me some good advice.
Yeah, I want to know too.
Okay. Have a good one.